Hi, my name is Nana. Welcome again to Menopause. We've got special guests joining us today, Bukky, who lives in London, and our dear sister Modupe, all the way from America, coming to share their experiences on menopausal symptoms.
Thank
Hi,
you.
everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you, Modupe and Bukky, for being brave to share your experiences with everybody. Really, it's so appreciated. So just a recap of what we went through before. We're not going to talk about them now, but we talked about the different stages of the menopause for women, from the pre to peri to menopause, which is just one day really, and then postmenopausal from that day onward. And that symptoms are different for different people. And some people actually, I understand, is one in four, one in 4 year don't have any symptoms. I'm like, wow, I wish I could be in that in that proportion of women who don't, but many do. So we talked about the relationship being complex and how it might actually, make us feel socially isolated. And then we talked about some symptoms. Our focus has been on hot flushes. Modupe has shared her story. And now we're going to hear from Bukky, who is actually taking or using HRT. So we want to hear about that.
Yeah.
Before and after, how has it been?
Okay. Thank you, Joe, for giving me this platform to share my story and my experience. I think, as we said, it's different for each person. And I think for me, to be able to tell the story, I need to take you right back to the beginning.
Mm.
So it all started with fibroids. And I understand that fibroid is not uncommon for a lot of Black women. But for me, the fibroid was really terrible. It was dilapidating. Thank God I'd had my 2 boys. But then I started to experience the symptoms closer to maybe when I was about 40 or so, with very heavy bleeding, as in very heavy blood clots. So I knew I needed to do something about it because it was really affecting me on the day-to-day life. So I saw my consultant, whatever, and we looked at the options. So the first option was to remove the fibroid, and the second option was to take out the entire uterus. I mean, as a woman, I guess, you want to preserve your womb and everything. But it became clear to me that, look, you've had your boys, you're not looking for more children. The best thing is just take out the whole thing, in one piece. And that's exactly what I did. So that was in 2010. And I think that brought on the early onslaught of menopause for me. Initially, obviously, all the bleeding stopped, which was great. Nobody wants to go through the monthly cycle. So that was really great. And I think for the next few years, it was all hunky-dory. The menopause kicked in, I think, in about year 3. So by that time, I was probably 43, 44. And that's when I started with the hot flushes. My goodness. I mean, I hear people saying, oh, the hot flushes comes several times in a day. For me, it was virtually every hour, sometimes more than that. I mean, it was crippling. I couldn't. So anywhere I was, I had my fan, my table fan. I had a bottle of water, which I still do, by the way. I guess with habit. I had my water, I had my handheld fan everywhere in meetings, etc. It was crippling, and it got worse at night. I mean, for goodness sake, 7 times in the night, I was getting up because I was being woken up by the heat, and then I'll go to the toilet, and it was just disturbing my sleep. And I think because of that, it was also affecting my work, because you need a good night's sleep to be able to function effectively. As with most people as well, I was hesitant about HRT. I mean, you don't want to start introducing some strange thing into your body. But it got to a stage that I knew I needed to do something about it. I needed to do the HRT. So I did a little bit of research. And one thing that was clear for me was I didn't want the one that would ingest, that would go through my system and through the system will have to filter it. I didn't want that. I wanted something that was external. So I met with my GP, and I was prescribed this one. It's called the estrogel. I show it here. It's just a gel, and one pump on the left shoulder, one pump on the right shoulder. So I started using it, and for the next 2 weeks, I didn't really feel anything. I was still having the hot flushes. I think it was on the 2 weeks mark. I just noticed that, hold on, I've not had a hot flush. Okay, is this permanent? Is this temporary? And believe me, sincerely, I've been using this now for about 2, 3 years now, and it's been a game changer. Honestly speaking, I sleep like a baby now. So it's been a game changer. I don't have hot flushes anymore. Honestly speaking, I would recommend it. And I've done my research. It doesn't, the risk of, breast cancer or whatever, no. We got one life to live. I want to live it well without flushes. So that's my story, and that's my journey. Thank you. I don't know if you have questions.
I would just like to point out that everybody is different, like we said, and that you need to speak to your GP to discuss and weigh the risks and benefits. Our sister Bukky, her uterus was removed, so they only gave her the gel. Women who still have their ovaries and their womb, they would have 2 different HRT treatments, the gel plus capsules, progesterone.
Okay.
So everybody is different. So it's very, very important that you discuss it with your GP, you do your own research, and then you make a decision for yourself. But thank you for sharing that. So thank you.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. When I say fascinating, not like just hearing about that story, because I think we all, like we were saying, we're all different, and it just shows how different the 4 of us, even on this platform, are in terms of our experience and what we've had to do. So yeah, and when we talk about GP, so your doctor. So please, if you want to use anything, talk to your doctor or a medical practitioner to discuss things, because like Nana was saying, you might need to have both estrogen replacement as well as progesterone replacement, because those are the 2 key hormones that really play a big role in a woman's life. And is this declining levels and when you talked about, so what will you, because you had yours around 40, so it was earlier than 45. So that kind of again fits in with what we're talking about, premature. That was a medically induced, or surgically induced one, I should say, because you had that. So it was a surgically induced menopause in a way. So that's you had that early. But it's really great to know that you've been, keeping well and not suffering with hot flushes like we are still, who are refusing to use. Well, 2 of us, Nana is not experiencing hot flushes.
I haven't experienced hot flushes yet. I'm rather always cold. At work, I feel cold.
Lucky you.
For the time being, yes. But I wanted to ask, apart from the hot flushes, what other symptoms were you experiencing?
To be honest, that was the only thing I was experiencing. But the way I look at it is because of the hot flushes, because it was disturbing my night sleep, because I wasn't having a good night's sleep, so during the day I was feeling tired, not at my best. I was having to take a Centrum Performance or Well Woman, just to bring my energy back. So I guess low energy. So you understand, but I would say it was just a hot flush I was experiencing, but because it was disturbing my night sleep, that was why the other things came on. But in terms of weight gain, in terms of joint pain, I didn't have any of those symptoms.
Well, maybe because you started to use the HRT, earlier, maybe that helped with not experiencing those other symptoms. Yeah.
Well, can I add, maybe you guys can do some research. I have the same experience like Bukky did. Maybe that's why I'm having my hot flushes very bad. I had fibroid also. I took mine out. Mine was 17. I have pictures of it, different kinds of sizes. So I took the 17 out. So that is where, when I took it, I thought I was going to be better. I'll tell you about my heavy period. So when they took the 17 out, I thought, okay, I'll be fine. But no, it wasn't. So that's why I went on Miranda to kind of stop the bleeding, my cycles, because it was very heavy. So after 5 years, when I took it out, they told me the fibroid came back. So They didn't tell me that it wasn't gonna come back. So I was thinking, oh, that is fixed. But no, it grew back. And they told me I have some. I said, you know what? I'm about to be menopause anyway. I said, that's why I said, that's one of the things I was looking forward to. Like, I'm going to stop all this. No, I won't have any problems. I never get to a point where I was anemic, but it was heavy, very, very heavy. When I'm in my periods, I use the largest pad and everything, very uncomfortable.
Yeah,
So
double it
maybe,
up, from
yes,
the end
I
to
do
the
all
Yeah.
end.
that. So yeah, so maybe there's something about the fibroid because like when she said, I'm like, oh, maybe that's one of the reasons why mine is really bad now. I
But
didn't.
if I can interrupt you,
Yes.
she had a hysterectomy, kind of,
Mm.
right? You didn't
Mhm.
have, you only had the fibroid taken
Remove,
out. So
yeah.
so it's a bit of a different scenario. So in her case, then the onset will be because of that. Because yeah, but so I think it's still different stories, different journeys. But yeah, I understand totally what you're saying. And I think maybe whoever is watching this, if you're into research, let's look into the
So,
relationship between
so
fibroids
fibroid
and 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 the onset of hot
arthritis.
flushes, or the severity of it. So yeah,
That's right. That's right.
yeah, that's
That's what I'm
a
saying.
good
Yeah.
one for research.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. But then remember that the menopause symptoms is mainly due to the decline of estrogen. Okay.
Mm.
When Bukky had her womb removed, Bukky, did they preserve your ovaries? Or
Yes, they did. They
okay.
did. They
So your
preserved the
ovaries
ovals.
will
Yes.
be at that time they will still produce some hormones. But then,
Mm.
with the fibroids, when they're removing the fibroids, it's
Mhm.
not affecting estrogen.
Yeah.
It's after they had removed the womb, then the onset of what decline of estrogen was faster. That's why she was getting the symptoms. So the symptoms here and what we know from research is decline in estrogen, decline in progesterone, decline in testosterone, causing menopausal symptoms. So it's not
Yeah.
really related to the fibroids.
But you never know. I mean,
So that's,
research could be
I mean,
That's
still maybe
changes.
an area that maybe needs
there
to be
must be something.
explored.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's
With
any
fibroids, you get
relationship.
heavy bleeding. Yes, you get heavy bleeding, and that leads to being anemic
Mm,
because of the loss of blood. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. But you didn't experience anemia, you said, with the bleeding anyway. So yeah, it's just
Mm.
again, we're also different experiences, but the impact of this transition on us as women, especially when you're so maybe used to being so active
Mm.
and up and down doing this and that, is can be really, it can impair our quality of life in so many ways, especially like Ibuki was saying, if you don't get to sleep well, obviously the
Mm.
next day is going to be like, okay, how am I going to survive this day? So there's a lot of, cause and effect in a sense there. Um,
I want
okay.
to just very quickly touch on the role of the employer in supporting women that go through
Yeah.
menopause.
Mhm.
Yes.
Interestingly, yeah, just during this week, I was talking to my HR director, and
Mhm.
we're catching up. So I mentioned about one of my staff, that's going through the symptoms, the menopausal symptoms, and it's kind of affecting her work in a way. So he was very empathetic, and he said, in fact, that the company is just coming up with a policy now where they will deliberately support women going through menopause.
Okay.
So I thought that was quite interesting. And I asked to see a copy of the manual so I could read it and contribute to this discussion, but he didn't manage to give me. I think he was very busy. So, well, if I do get whatever information I get, I will be sure to pass it on. But I think it's a thing, it's a topical thing that employers need to
Yeah.
be aware
Mhm.
of and to be supportive, I guess, of
Yeah, that's a
employees.
very good point. I think it's been, is it part of, is it been made into law in the
Yeah,
UK in terms of, it's more of one of your protected, I think,
yes,
characteristics now. Please
yes,
don't quote me on that. I need to just check my facts. But I think there's
it,
something about it being
yeah,
introduced into the law in how you support women
yeah,
in their
Okay.
workplaces.
yeah,
We don't know what's going on in other countries, what support is out there. But yeah, it needs to be talked about. There needs to be things in place in the
yeah.
workplaces to support women going through the
Yeah.
menopause.
It is law now in the UK.
Yeah,
When if you speak to HR, they will give you the supports. It could be putting more funds in your workplace. giving you periods
Yeah.
of break more often, making sure that making sure that the work environment is comfortable for you.